Hey, it's your girl Andrea and Dr. Erika Nagorske.
Hello.
We're going to talk a little bit about performance beef today. I know I've talked about the feeding side of things, the processing side of things. We're going to kind of combine all of it and then also chat about how it can be beneficial with your relationships with veterinarians, nutritionists, all of that type of things, because that's kind of another piece to it. Obviously, we use it to feed. I use it to process calves. You guys know that I'm obsessed with data. It's just a really fun thing, and you can make very influenced in a positive way decisions using performance beef. But as a veterinarian, why do you think performance beef is worth it?
Pretty much everything you just said and some, right? So to be able to have true numbers and data to what you're doing year to year, I think is helpful to make data-driven decisions, especially on calves, like when you're looking at that scope of the weight spread, right? So it makes sense, these calves are smaller, they were born later, what have you, but then if it's like, no, they just aren't performing like
those
everybody
underperforming
else.
calves that we talked about, like there's no reason you should be like that. Maybe it is a genetic thing, or is there something going on internally that you don't see with visual signs? Because that can be a thing too.
Yeah, they look perfectly healthy, they're just not keeping up with everybody else. So I think that's always interesting. One of my favorite things to look at, which we talked about a little bit in the office, is drops in feed intake after a processing event. As a veterinarian, if we make any vaccine changes that potentially, adding vaccines or different vaccines that are harder on the animals, what that does to their feed intake. We don't want that to dip too hard because it really sets them back from a growth standpoint. And then not only that, but other health events. If they drop off feed, they're more likely to get sick.
Compromised. Here comes all the fun.
All the good.
Weather change. If you all of a sudden have like freezing rain right then, like it's just gonna
you just see it completely on performance beef. But yeah, I'd say those are health events, and then just feed intakes after processing. Kind of my favorite things. And you guys have concerns, they can share with me the login information, and they can make sure I can't edit it because I will mess something up, which I appreciate. Thank you.
You can add someone as like a user, but give them like view only. Yeah, like they can't do anything. Fun fact: they're not gonna like hack into your account and take it all away. But
I will
hit
mess something up. Yeah, for sure. So I love that. Thank you for speed. But yeah, so I can log in and see what you're talking about, which pens you're having issues with. Ration changes.
Erika just actually wrote an article that's on the Performance Beef website, and I will link it in the description of this video. I think it's a super just helpful article to have, especially if you're receiving cattle or weaning calves. So make sure you check that out. But obviously, like, health is important in cattle year round, their entire life cycle. But it is extra concerning kind of, and like something you have to keep an eye on during weaning or stressful events like processing incoming calves.
So weaning, as Andrea mentioned, it is a stressful time, right? We're taking the calf from mama. They've been with mama for their whole life so far, and we're grouping them together, expecting them to figure out how to eat, probably giving them a couple of vaccines, and then just sending them on their way, right? Like,
become an adult.
Fly, birdie.
It's like sending your kid to like school. You're like, see you later.
Good luck. So it's stressful. So there's a lot of things we can do management-wise, vaccine-wise, health-wise, feed, environment, everything to make that less stressful. And it's important using something like performance beef to really track how they do during that time. From a feed intake standpoint, are they eating what we want them to eat? Treatment rate, are we treating more than we should be? Response to treatment is really important as a veterinarian to look at. So, not only treat rate, but as we give them treatments, are they responding like they should, or are they coming back and being treated again? And so that kind of helps us figure out, what do we have going on? Are we using the right drug? Are we finding the calves in time, or cattle or whatever? And then do we know what's going on from a disease process, and we're making the right decision at that point? So those are kind of good things I really like to look at with performance beef, and to make sure we're making the right decisions for our animals.
So if you are in performance beef and you're processing calves and you're going to treat, let's say you take 3, and you would track them in the processing side of things, it'll attach their tag ID number, whatever you have with that, and then it'll say that's your first bull. If all of a sudden they come back, 2 weeks later and you're treating again, you input that same animal with their tag, it'll say, hey, this is your second treatment. That's data you can see, and all of a sudden if you're treating a whole bunch of them 2 or 3 times, hey, that's kind of a red flag of whatever we're doing is not working. Maybe there's something deeper going on. Are they going to be a chronic? It kind of can just help with that management, especially if you have hired help, where it's not just like, right, for us, it's mom and I doing it. So a lot of the time, like, I can remember, I treated 56 twice now, or like it's in my brain, but if you're going to do a little bit bigger feedlots, like a couple, you know, around the area, if you got 4 or 5 different people that are working throughout the week tracking animals, having that in there versus like, oh, it's just all there, easy peasy. So we talk about performance beef, you know, like this is what it looks like. You guys have seen that. She can legitimately have access to people's accounts and log in and see pretty much all of this information just without the editing capabilities that we mentioned.
Or financial, if you don't want to share financial stuff with me, or whoever you're granting access to. So I also like that piece of performance beef, because some producers don't want to. They don't want me to see their closeout. That's fine. And some do. So we can make some decisions. So, so yeah, I think that's helpful.
As we mentioned, like this is your team, your board of directors, like your veterinarian, your banker, sometimes your accountant, your nutritionist. All of those things are super important to making your operation successful, and being able to streamline communication with an app that just kind of helps with that. And then when you're having phone calls or you're on farm or you're texting back and forth.
I mean, there's been instances where I'm on a group text, the producer and the nutritionist, and it's like, hey, you know, one of us brings up pen 3 really fell off, what's going on? You know, oh, we made a ration change and it's not going well, or whatnot. So it's just nice to be able to communicate and streamline it, really, like you just said, and go to what the problem is and what we're all seeing, instead of kind of a phone tag, telephone game of what's really going on.
Right, because you're busy. We're busy.
Yeah.
Everyone's busy. So it just helps streamline that and take some of that extra time out of it. Okay, I have a question. I think this will be a fun discussion. I think I know the answer already. I should know the answer. When it comes to like calves kind of breaking with something, do you see a difference in their feed intake ahead of time, or at the time that all of a sudden they're like not feeling good?
Ahead of time.
Ahead of time, see?
Just you got to really be in tune to it, because it might be just like, oh, I called the bunk a little bit wrong that day, or someone else fed, but like they will tell you ahead of time before they're physically sick.
Which is why bunk management is important, because one, you want to make sure that, like we've talked about, you don't want to be ahead of cattle too far. You don't want to be behind cattle. You want them to be, you know, whatever. Everyone's a little bit different on what time of day they want their bunks to be empty per se. And it depends upon your type of barn, your number of head in a pen. But like a good rule of thumb is like 1/3 of cattle are waiting at the bunk when you go to feed, 1/3 of them are coming to the bunk to eat, and 1/3 of them are laying back not caring. That is a pretty set guideline for nutritionists in general, but it's a fine dance. Like you have to be on this line, and you don't want to go over it, you don't want to go under it. So if you can actually stay in control of your bunk calls, the whole like they will tell you if you're really good with your bunk call skills that like they're not feeling great. And also bunk calls are important in weather events. So if all of a sudden we're getting really hot, you're gonna get stressed out with that, or all of a sudden if we get really cold, we gotta stay on top of that with the weather. And where we live in Minnesota, our weather does that. Why do we live here?
I don't know.
That's a terrible map to look at. But okay, so I'm just gonna show you I was like, wow, why is that feed intake so bad? This is a group of cows, so you're gonna actually end up seeing the fact that there's 4 or 5 years on here, 4 years, 2022 to 2025, it is showing by the time we pull cows off feed. So you can see, I was like, oh my God, what group is this? So this is cows going on feed in the winter, coming off feed when they go to grass type of thing. But if we would pull up, let's just do our 2025 home raised cows since we just weaned them. You can assess and judge it. It's pretty upright. It's where you kind of want them to be. There was one day where you can see they didn't get fed because they didn't clean up their feed. They got some extra bedding that day. Sometimes that throws them off feed, but it's something just to know if all of a sudden they filled up on corn stalks. We honestly got a little bit too far ahead of them. They got a little bit too much feed that day, and it was, we need you to clean up your feed. We don't want you to waste it type of deal. But after that point, it's been pretty linear, upright.
You can see here, like I think as you follow the cattle up here, you guys did a really good job, because sometimes you'll see you get to the top and then it's like base plant because you took them too high too fast. So things like that are helpful, depending on how you want to feed and what your nutritionist wants to kind of monitor, like, okay, like you guys are doing it at the right cadence. The cattle liked it. I do like that page.
Okay. So this is like your overall health page, which I've talked about like withdrawal status before. So if you track individual animal treatments in here, it'll actually be like this pen is not clear to ship, which when you have a larger operation, more hands helping, it's important to know like, hey, we can't ship that. We've had this conversation with us shipping fats. We had a couple that we treated for like foot rot. You got to make sure that they're cut off and they're clear to ship. Performance Beef can do that for you if you track it in there, which is slick.
Mm-hmm.
It also is going to show these, you know, first respiratory diagnosis. Here's your second that we were talking about outside your first pull, your second pull. And then also what's your chronic respiratory? How many calves have you lost out of this group? All of that data that's important to the health piece of things from Erika's standpoint.
I like that page. That's a nice...
It's just a good snapshot.
Yes.
I feel like overall
Absolutely.
to know kind of what you're dealing with.
Yep.
Once again, you have to actually use the health side of things for this to do it. It's not just gonna like magically show up.
Yeah,
but
no, wait, you have to enter things to get data. No.
right? But once it's in there,
and then you have to summarize it to be able to use it.
Yes. So I have showed you this lovely processing report because it's my favorite and we nerd out every time I work calves. But Erika wanted to talk about this bell curve of our weight distribution a little bit.
I think this is just helpful regardless of what kind of, you know, if it's weaned calves or a feedlot situation, just to see where are we at. You know, when you get calves in, what's the distribution? And then when they leave, what's the distribution? Especially if you have multiple processing points. And that's something we talked about earlier, that you like to compare. Okay, what was your weight when we processed you the first time? And then you're coming back through the chute again. What's your weight? Just really pinpointing performance and what animals you want to feed. And maybe there's animals that don't fit in your production system for whatever reason, so you make sure not to breed for them again, or you cull them early so they can go somewhere else and be more profitable for someone else. Yeah, I just think it's a good, and it's cool.
It's data. We're both nerds about it,
yeah.
So there's that piece of it. But I also think it's, you know, it's something we talked about at the Performance Beef event they did last February. You can also associate this with like where you purchase groups of cattle. So all of a sudden, if you have a group of cattle that you just feel like are not performing great on feed, and obviously like you fed them longer and all of that jazz, you know that. But if you also use the processing side of Performance Beef, it's going to tell you. And then you're gonna know, hey, if I pay the same price for Susie's calves versus Todd's calves, I'm gonna probably go buy the ones that perform better because they're the same price, but why would I stick extra input costs into something when I could have this superior animal? It's just an extra piece of data that can help you make informed decisions, which I think is super beneficial.
Yes.
And you know, we've talked about with us, like we raise most of our own cattle that we feed out. We do buy some outside calves usually, but all of this also helps us make management decisions when it comes to breeding, culling, all of that jazz. So like we talked about, we'll go walk here towards the feedlot pens in a minute, but there's some of the stragglers in there, and I'm like, having all this information, I would just associate of like, maybe they were a younger calf, and I just like wouldn't look into it. And now I can say, hey, like that's actually a calf that's as old as everyone else or even older. And she honestly just sucks because some calves just underperform and there's no reason for it. Like there's a couple in here, 103's calf, we could pick on her all day. Remember that Bronco face that was really spicy that we had?
Yeah.
Her last calf is in there and she is like 1,100 pounds,
the gift that
soaking
keeps
wet.
Yeah.
And I'm like, wow, should have like called you forever ago, you know? You just actually have that data of like, no, her just on feed performance sucks. And we have it individualized because we track all of that at processing. So it's just fun to know if you don't have data, you can't make informed decisions. It's all just guessing on the fly.
Yep.
And, you know, I can say for operation, how much I've pushed to have technology and like pushed up Performance Beef, it has more than give us an ROA back on everything we've paid to have the program because we have the clarity in making decisions, which I think is super helpful.
Yeah.
Because
I think everyone has a general idea of how their farm performs, right? I think unfortunately though, sometimes it's you get to the end of the year and you figure out if you made money or you didn't. Where this can kind of give you some real time feedback on how you're doing so you can make some better decisions.
Okay, we're gonna go pick on this calf. So I typed in his tag manually because he lost his Performance Beef electronic ID tag, but you can see 84B, he is a twin, so we got that going. I also have the wrong gender in there, so let's just ignore that. He was 386 pounds at reprocessing, meaning he was only gaining 1.24 pounds per day. We're gonna go find him in the feedlot, and you're gonna see this nice animal, and it's gonna make sense of why this animal looks the way he does based on his growth from way back in the beginning. So we're gonna let's go meander.
Like, so perfectly healthy.
Yeah, like he's healthy as could be.
Great fill, good body fat, like coming along, but just ain't doing what everybody else
Just look at his size compared to everyone else, which he is a twin, was a bottle calf, grew a lot slower. We did have some like health stuff going on when he was younger, but to actually like know, hey, like he's gained a lot of weight. 'Cause he was 350 pounds, 342 pounds, whatever it was, in January. He's probably 900. Finished out at 1,000. He's going to be smaller than what we like, but if we were to look at his daily gain now, if I run through the chute, it would give that to me, and I'd be like, he's probably doing better because he's put on a lot of weight. I just, some of these animals suck. Okay, they were like smaller, or they got treated 3-4 times in the fall, and then they came out of it.
That's helpful. Sometimes you forget.
Right. They were a chronic for a little bit. Right. That was our fun discussion on performance beef and how it can streamline communication, have benefits to your veterinarian with animal health, making decisions, vaccine protocols, nerding out over data, all of that jazz. Anything else you want to add?
Great program. I mean, I think the reality is ag is getting more and more technologically advanced, right? And I think if you want to stick around and be relevant, you gotta adapt some of these things to make better decisions faster.
Yep. I'll link a couple of videos of performance beef that I've done before. I'll link Erika's article as well. You can check it out. And yeah, make sure you check out performance beef. Try a demo if you have not yet. Tell them that I sent you because I love them and they're the best.
I will say, another random plug that we didn't plan on talking about is their customer service is
chef's kiss. Chef's kiss.
They're
fantastic. Awesome. They just have a great team. And I'm obviously partial because I've worked with them for how many years, but they have honestly like the best team of any ag company that I've ever been around. So,
sure.
Mic drop. Okay.
Done.
Deuces. Thanks for watching. Make sure you hit that subscribe button, and I'll catch you on the next one. You might see her again someday. She lives around here, but maybe she'll show up. I don't know.